Welcome to Learn, Chat, Share, the podcast where knowledge meets conversation. Hosted by Daniel Wathen. We're beginning. Good morning, Jimmy Durbin. Okay, so thank you for joining us today. My friend, Jimmy Durbin, and we'll talk about why I kind of paused there. We've known each other 25 years or so, with a huge break in between. And your road has been very interesting, so we'll walk through that a bit. And the topic that we're rolling into today is tied to addiction recovery, and all of the side components that come into that as well, because it's not as black and white or straightforward as a person is addicted to X.
Right.
Usually there's some sort of causality, even if it's just social interaction with friends and what have you. And I didn't hit record. Okay, we'll start that again. So welcome to Learn, Chat, Share. I didn't hit record, so as we, one of the proponents of Learn, Chat, Share, we make a lot of freaking mistakes. So anyway, we learn as we go. So Jimmy Durbin is here with me today, and we are going to jump into the topic of addiction and addiction recovery. There's a lot that goes into that. He is an expert at that. He also lived the life. He and I have known each other for 25 years. We were in a whole nother industry at the time, so our arcs have taken us down different paths. His was a bit more hard on him, but we got him to a good space now. So luckily for me, we got to rekindle and come back together, and we still have to take that photo. We didn't do it yet, so we have to do that. So we're gonna just jump right in. So part of the lead up to this is that I am gay and I live in a community, and it's very prevalent within my community, the social aspects of drug use. Just more of like, hey, we're gonna party. Oh, this party has X. These people at this party can supply Y and Z, and so it's very accessible. And I think in researching this, we sort of looked at age stats, general population versus LGBTQ, some interesting stuff there, male, female. A lot of the facts that we have are sort of self-reported or sort of doctor reported types of things, and we'll get into that. But Jimmy, tell everyone a little bit about you, what your path was to where you're at today, and that could probably take the whole hour. took us an hour and a half. We did a breakfast and got caught up on. I was like, what? But yeah, give the audience.
Yeah. So thanks for the invitation and for reaching out. So we worked together at Expedia, Travelscape. And that was actually the beginning around 2000 of my path I got into a car accident, prescribed pain medication, and that was a golden thread that just seemed to unravel and entered every facet of my life. And I think at the end of the day, and this I think it will be a theme through the numbers, is that I was unhappy. I felt empty.
Before
even the addiction.
So think of this as causality. So it's not like you weren't whole before the car accident.
And it wouldn't have seemed that way from the outside,
and I can attest to that.
Yeah, so
very
young.
The joke was what, Ken and Barbie?
Yes,
Ken and Barbie.
Yeah.
Whole life was beautiful.
Privileged.
Beautiful kids.
House.
The cars. Everything. The whole checking all the boxes. This was
Absolutely.
the perfect couple.
But there was a piece in me that felt as like a fraud or undeserving or less than, not good enough. So I think when I got into that car accident and prescribed the pain medications, emotionally it solved a lot of problems. It numbed me, and then I just started chasing that, and ultimately spent all the money, stole the money that wasn't mine from my kids and my wife and the government, ended up homeless, just really dark mental health, suicide ideation, and ultimately a suicide attempt, and voices, just, and that was over a 10-year span, right? It's slow deterioration.
Now, at the time, did it feel like, hey, I'm a kid in the candy store, I have this pain, and they give me the candy, and wow, how does this make me feel? Like, you know,
I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was just traveling down this road, and it felt good. It was a great dopamine catch-all, and we often say, like, in the beginning it's all fun, and then there's some fun and some problems, and then at the end it's just all problems. Like at that point, I'm now the choice, my agency. Like I need now the medicine. I need whatever it is, just to kind of make me feel normal, because it's just years and years and years of introducing that into my body and physiology and the biology of it, and changing the cells, and it's now, my organs have now come to depend on that level of substance in my system.
And you were adding on top, right? So
Yeah.
it was pain med, multiple pain med.
Yeah, as prescribed.
Alcohol, right?
Yeah.
As prescribed, plus
yeah.
Talk to a doctor. Oh, I need more.
Oh, I was chasing. I would research. What do I need to do? What symptoms do I need to say that I have in order to go from, Percocets to the Lortabs 5s to the 10s to the Oxys to the 5, 10s, 30s. And then I was stealing it where I could find it and get it. I spent a lot of energy.
And for the thing is, it's a road, it's a journey,
right?
Whether or not it's a bad journey, that's
it's
here
mine
nor there. But during the journey, if you can remember or recall, did you know you were lying?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That was, and I'm also someone who enjoys the benefits of an organized religion.
Yes.
Right. And so the religious tenets said that I shouldn't be drinking or smoking nicotine or stealing and lying. So there even becomes this more cavern.
Or taking that much pain meds.
Yeah. And so there's the inherent shame from that piece. And then the shame that I'm just feeling anyway. And then from society, because I'm not doing this or X or Y or Z. And through through this 10-year process, I'm getting caught from my wife and my in-laws, and feeling very repentive, promising I'm going to change, and then just having more shame when I know that I'm lying, or it's sincere in that moment because I know that I'm hurting. But my history shows, because I am a chronic relapser, that I may get 1 day, 1 week, a couple months, but eventually, because I wasn't doing anything to go down to the abscess, to get to the core of it, which was that I had trauma, I'm hurting, I'm suffering, I have some negative beliefs about myself that pills, medicine, marijuana, alcohol, heroin, meth, food is just not going to solve. It's just going to band-aid, placate. And it's interesting, the juxtaposition of it all, because I am white and I'm older, privileged, biased.
Have that religious background.
Had the religious background, right? Faith. That if I admit that I need help,
male.
If I admit that I need help, I also have to admit that I'm broken, that I'm bad, that I'm wrong, that I lack moral fortitude. And the ego wouldn't let me do that. So I was like, okay, well, tomorrow. And it just never came.
Now, did you ever have any defensiveness when your wife or family or anyone like sort of sat you down? Because I'm sure you have the type of family they would have said, "Hey, something's not kosher here, right? Like, let's do something." So I only ask that is because I think a lot of listeners have people in their lives that are on that journey at some point and hiding everything, and the white lies turn into real lies, and changing their social structure so this person is not talking to this person is not talking to this person. There's a lot that goes into it when you have to navigate. And I have experience with people like this, so I'm going to talk like I may have people in my life this way because I do.
We all do.
And what I experience as sort of the observer, because we only want the best for that human being, right?
Absolutely.
When you want to sit them down, it's immediate defensiveness, right? So I don't know, I'm like, during your journey, did you have that? Like, no, I'm handling everything.
It's not that bad.
It's not
yeah.
It's just an episode,
And
why don't you believe me?
Right. Oh yeah. And there's an aspect of I believe that. But then it's also the ego and the shame, and depending on who it is and how close you are within the circle of trust, that would work for a period of time with my wife. But after a while, that runs its course.
Bullshit.
It's like, yeah. But I can use that same strategy with maybe a friend or my best friend or someone out here on the fringes. And I'm believable. I can...
He was in sales, so he can...
Yeah. I can,
He can pull it out.
And I believe it, right? Because I want to believe it. I want to believe
Now, you were believing the lie.
Yeah.
Were you believing the lie, or were you...
I wanted to believe the lie.
You were believing the lie 90%, 10%?
In the moment that I was saying it, it was 100%. I believed. It's when I would back off, and then I'd have to deal with the shame of it, our conversation, and it's twisted, right? Because when you talk about love, like you just said, like I love this person. My family and friends loved me. They wanted the best for me. They wanted to hold me in my highest possibility. Or in the beginning, if you loved me, you wouldn't be using. If you loved your kids, you wouldn't be doing this to them.
The ultimatum of it.
And love really does not work that way.
Well, and that's the learn part of this is that we don't go into it perfectly. Like if I'm an intervener, just whack them. But if I'm an intervener, like you try everything to like cut through, right? Like get in, because they remember you before,
right?
When you're logical or rational or what have you, and not you particularly, but now they're dealing with like the closed-in version of you,
a version,
and it's very frustrating for an intervener, because it just comes from that place of love and care and let's get back to normal, or let's pull you out of a safety situation, or whoever they may be impacting. And when you hit that wall of defensiveness, it's the first thing you do is like, if you love us, then you will do.
What?
And I think as a intervention coach, that doesn't work, does it?
Mm-mm.
Does it
Mm-mm.
fuel the fire,
It
or
just
does it just
it's
make it
it
like create more defensiveness, or
it's a
like?
petri dish for shame for the other. Like if I'm when I was in that mindset,
Mm-hmm.
all I'm hearing is through the lens of shame.
You're bad. Mm-hmm.
And it's reinforcing these negative beliefs that I already know about myself, which now get sensitized and activated. And the only thing that my brain knows to numb this, go use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so,
And it's hungry already.
oh,
Right?
it's a ferocious appetite. And depending on where I was in my journey, right, it had a ferocious appetite. And so that's the
Well, the
delicacy.
hangover management of it, right? So it's like not even all there.
Yeah, that's the delicacy and the intricacy. And that's why it's a family disease. And you talk about like a system, you know, if you and I are brothers and you want to help me, we introduce a stressor, it's going to rock our system, right? And so you're going to want to try to do, be, and say whatever you need to do, be, and say because you love me, to not see your brother hurt. And I'm just not there.
Mm-hmm. So what do people do?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's almost like I think a lot of people actually feel this when they sit people down. They know that it's not going to work, but they want it to, right? And they're just hoping for that glimmer in that human being that's going to be like, no, I'm going to go to rehab, you know, or like, you know, wave the flag like I need help, which is the last thing a lot of people do, right? So that's where you're the expert.
Yeah,
it's like what, and maybe it's too unique by case, or
I love that.
But how do you get the willing unwilling person, you know, that knows that they're screaming for help, they have this addiction, they're feeding the monster, they're trying to portray themselves in a specific light. They know there's a problem. You're putting light on it. Like it. That's why I wanted to do this. It's just so complex.
It's very
that but like what would an intervener like me or whoever, like what can we do for
what
a
does a
friend?
loved one do, right?
Or what can a mother do for a son? Or what can, you know, a sister do for another sister? Or, you know, what's the first thing that we can do here?
Well, the only thing that's real is love. If it's not love, it's not real. And so what I mean by that is, because my journey included a lot of codependency in the system. And that
your personal system.
Yeah. So for example, my mother-in-law lived with us for a long period of time, and she had a lot of medication. And so I would steal her medication through the years. And she would leave little notes in the pill bottles. Don't do this. I've counted how many pills there are. I'm going to tell your wife.
Yeah. Wow.
And I would throw those aside and take whatever I needed.
Your mother-in-law?
Yeah. Okay.
So she was inside your world a bit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, right?
Okay, I'm hearing this. I didn't know.
And so she never confronted me other than through that very passive means.
I mean, it's pretty direct though.
And through my 15 years now of living in recovery, I've healed that relationship. And now I'm able to live my amends, and I take her to doctor's appointments. We spend a lot of time together now.
Yes.
And we were driving, this was 3 months ago. And she said, I asked her, do you remember that time period where you would leave notes in the pill bottles? And she's like, oh yeah, I remember. And we kind of just looked at each other and laughed. And she said, can I ask you a question? I said, yes. Why didn't I ever confront you? And I said, oh, Nani, that's a great question. And I said, you know, we just had a lot of codependency. I think there was a lot of fear that if you did, what would happen to your daughter? What would happen to the marriage? What would happen to your grandkids? And so it was just easier not to.
Well, and if you all were caregiving at the same time, it's also a
Yeah,
safe,
but
safe place.
there was places where we weren't, right? Where
Right.
she could
Yeah.
have.
Mhm.
So I'd say that to give the listeners context of there's a spectrum. Um, I would say give as much as you can, right? But you need to know your own boundaries.
Mhm.
If you start giving from a place of where you just don't have it anymore and you're summoning up the courage and you're losing sleep or the financial means or whatever, it's only going to drown the system quicker.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna tell a story right now that's similar but not quite the addiction level, right? So I have a friend. She's been on this podcast. Valerie has cancer. Got sick in September. It's now November 2nd, and it hit her. It hit her hard because her immune system's messed up, right? I would say that from that time she got the flu, she wasn't all there. But we all treated her like she was. And it took me 2 weeks to get her to the hospital. She lost like 30 pounds and was like sort of wasting away. And she had some severe issues. In the car ride, so I tell the story from an interventionist sort of perspective. Like I wasn't going to give in or give up, but it was frustrating because you can't kidnap someone, right? And that's why it's similar, right?
Right.
Like you want to pick somebody up and just put them in the facility, but if it's sort of voluntary, like they can just walk out whenever they want, right?
Exactly.
In the car, she'll never know. She'll know now after watching this book. Like she was berating me about being bossy. You're the most bossy. I can't wait. And for her and I, it was sort of the equivalent of being screamed at.
Right.
Like super like, and I'm like, yes, I'm bossy. And yes, you're going to the hospital. Like, so I think interveners want that. They're solid, but trying to get someone there, this isn't like a cup. This is just me and a really friend that actually respects my opinion. It took me 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Like, how hard headed are human beings that they can handle it themselves or they can wean themselves off themselves? Because I'm sure they think they can, but I don't know. I just, when you get into the uniqueness of everyone's story, like at what point do people give up because they can't, because it's too hurtful for them? Like, how much energy can I push out there? Or, I'm married to this individual. I mean, your wife, the, that arc,
Oh, wow.
so it's just, for a lot of people listening, they're on this side, right?
Yeah.
They have the addicted person in their life. Like how can they keep trying or try and find a way or the window or it's the big question. I don't think we're going to have an answer to that. I think
No,
that's the
but
big question.
it's a good question. And, I got to a place where I was ready, but I was on the streets. I was 42 years old. And again, coming from a place of being male and privileged and white, the contrast of like, this is your best thinking. This is where your 42 years and your lived experience has gotten you. You're in a different state than your family. Your wife wants to divorce you. Your kids have been scarred and injured from you. And and the ultimate surrender. And thus the healing journey begins. For loved ones, there, again, today's the 2nd. In 8 days, I'll have 15 years, God willing. There are still things that wash up on our shore that we're handling as a couple, as a family. And so it's just it affects, and tears the very fabric. And it's hard. It's really hard to love and be in love with someone who's an addict, and certainly in active addiction. There's no rules and there's no right way. There's just, what is love? How does that show up in this moment, in this week? And what I do and have seen is people go to extreme lengths financially, emotionally, spiritually, and they end up bankrupting themselves. And then all of a sudden the addict is like at a place like, okay, I'm ready. And then the family has nothing to give, right? And so it's this flow of, how do I keep things in reserve? How do I keep these boundaries? And to your story, and this is probably a whole nother topic of, why is it as human beings we have such a difficult time asking for help?
Well, as a man, we'll do a whole nother segment on being a man. But, I mean, I've had to. There were moments in my life where I knew that I was expected to handle it on my own.
That's the story, or that's
right. Like not even like it would never have ever occurred to me to sit down with someone. And I was like living like, the whole, you eat grilled cheese every single day for a month, or, it's like 6 months, right? So like financially, we'll just pick on that because it's easier, right? Like there was never, and my parents would be like, "Are you out of your mind? Like we could have helped at any time, right?" But I had that sort of
rite of passage.
That I gotta handle it all on my, and I think this is a really, this is very important. It's just not men. Like I think now, like a lot of people, especially when it's addiction, because the level of failure and shame associated with, I am now like chained by this thing. I should be able to break it. I think the addicted person just thinks, I have the control here. I'll go do this, or I'll taper it down for the next, however long, and then a week later you're like, nope, right back on track, right? So yeah, I don't know how to answer your question about why humans don't ask for help, but I think depending on where you come from and how you're raised, and what society says of us, right? It's sort of similar to that previous segment on girls, getting bullied on social media. They don't talk about what's going on until it's so far down the road that therapy is going to be required, or they take some sort of other action, suicidal action, or what have you. And a lot of times the parents are just like, what is happening?
No idea.
Right? And I think that's also true of addiction. I mean, the history here for me and him is Jimmy, he was Jim before, Jim disappeared. You're just out of the industry, right? And then when he healed, he came back out, So it's I think it's like we have another friend, Chris, that we used to work with. Same thing. He had a homeless track as well. I never even knew about it until he had gone into therapy.
It's the
like living on the street for 2 years, and that's the other sort of harder part of addiction, is that there's a lot of people that would actually step in and help, but I think the addicted party they start closing doors, right? They have their dealer who they'll keep that door open, right? Multiple dealers, or how to get the money to pay for the alcohol or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know what your experience. Were the doors closed because you didn't want them to see you? Were the doors closed because I've got this, I can handle it? I don't. And I'm sure it's different for different people. So yeah, we should we should have, I don't know, education younger in life on how to ask for help in real life situations.
I mean,
Not sure what that would look like.
Yeah, the brain, so I'm a social worker by license, a therapist now, and I work a lot with addiction. Trauma is my kind of specialty, so to speak. So when I first started, I got into a vein of just, with addiction, we cross a lot of moral lines, things that we would never do, but we end up doing because of the addiction. And then that led into sex trafficking and human trafficking, and then just being in Vegas, people coming out of the adult film industry. And I found myself just very comfortable in that world and being able to help and guide and travel with people through their healing journey, and then just going to conferences and just educating myself on like what's going to help. And so when you get to the core of it, we all have our autonomic nervous system, and that nervous system is connected to the brain stem, and the brain stem then is connected to the memory network. And so the brain, because it's encased in bone, depends on the body to feed it information in the environment to decide fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Like, where do we need to resonate on the autonomic nervous system? And the filing system that it will use, the catalog system, is the memory. And so the brain saves these pictures or images, connects it to a negative belief, and it can be shame-based. I'm not good enough. I'm insignificant. I'm not lovable. It can be controlled choices, like it's my fault. I did something wrong. I should have done something different. It can be control safety. So I'm not safe. I'm powerless. I'm going to die. And then when we're in our current life and we're made to feel a certain way, it'll go back to the memory network and say, oh, here are the other times that we felt that same way. And then it can be overwhelming, or that memory network gets activated, and that's trauma. And so that's what was happening with me. And what was solving that feeling was drugs and alcohol.
Bring the feeling down.
Yeah, food. I was bulimic, and I didn't make all these connections, but my mom was raped when I was 13 years old. My parents went through a hell divorce for me as a kid. And what I could control was how I ate. And then I also happened to be an athlete, and so I could rationalize it and justify it and intellectualize it as, oh, I'm just making weight. No, I was spinning out of control.
I read, this is not, don't fact check me because this is off memory, and this is an old thing. Male wrestlers, they end up having some severe problems later because of the control that they have to have on the sort of weight. And they end up shooting off into other sort of, addictions or what have you. So once you learn how to control your weight like that, and everyone just thinks that might be a feminine problem, because of
there we go. We're back to shame, right? So that is a human process, right? That's having a human. And when I sit down, and I can sit down with someone and say, oh, I don't have any trauma. I have loving parents. It was a beautiful system. Like, yes, in the way that you're thinking of trauma. But if you're 8 years old and you were playing Little League and you had a coach yell at you, and your body stored that memory because it made you feel a certain way, that's trauma. And like, whoa, okay. So then you start to roll back teachers or neighbors or kids or your elementary, and just like, or your parents or an uncle, just on what you would consider benign.
Yeah. I have a totally benign, I thought benign. So I'm a firm believer in therapy.
Yeah,
he's
please.
a therapist, so long time, like just just pay for it. But it's the joke in the family because there's a period of time where I thought that I had asthma. And I like, and it's sort of like it's how like things become like a little just family,
Yep.
light harassments,
Yep.
or
Yep.
just like little digs or what have you, and and really, uh, for a long time I was like, no, I really did have it, right? Fast forward many years, um, it wasn't, I couldn't breathe because I was being bullied in a very benign sixth grader way, never told a soul,
Mm-hmm.
right? And never made the connection that I literally am like seized up, right? I have the bullying situation before going to PE where my bullies were,
Yep.
right? And they were sort of taunting me throughout the day, every single day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and this is back in the 80s, right? So this is not like a period of time where, as a boy, you don't tell anybody, not a soul. That makes it way worse, right? And that's how it's promoted too with the boy, right?
Right.
We're gonna kill you if blah blah blah, right? But I would step into PE seized up, right? And I mean, just you can't breathe if you can't breathe. So, and my mind just went, okay, I have asthma, because I literally would have like these mini attacks while running around or whatever. And it's just because I couldn't get, I was going in without being able to breathe,
Yep.
right? So and I made this thing, not that I made it up. It was just
It's
my
how you dealt
brain
with
at
it.
that time thought that, right? And the only and that's why like going back to the social media aspect of it, I think this is all related in some way because the addicted person doesn't talk about
Correct.
the trauma,
Correct.
right? They also don't talk about we're supposed to suck up pain, which is also a strange thing. Like this was all prompted by pain management,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That you never lost over the period, right? Very similar to you get to watch your teenagers. There may be a lot going on. There was a lot going on with me, right? I was being taunted because I was gay, and I didn't want to be gay, so I was trying to hide from that. And what's the first question a parent asks if you even bring up that you're being bullied? Why are they bullying you? Oh, I'm gonna say because they're calling me faggot.
Right.
Like it was just like my brain couldn't
It's a perfect trap.
so I just literally went, you know, and no wrong or right, and I have beautiful parents, right? Like they would never have thought to ask, right? And the only thing that would have given them a hint was I fainted in chorus class one day because it was hot. I had gotten taunted earlier in the day because they were in my first period class. I got taunted all through PE, so I was overheated. I think and again, memory is faulty. I don't think I ate lunch because they were a part of the lesser lunch. So it's like lunch, go to PE, then go to
Bullying.
chorus, right? By the time I got in there, I was just like overworked, right? And I walk into a hot chorus room, get up on that bleacher, and it's hot in there. And literally within 5 minutes, I was
Yep.
pumped out. And they called my parents, and there was some sort of management around that. But it was only that moment that would have given a clue that this was happening my whole entire sixth grade,
Yeah.
right? So very similar to addictive, people that have this is like, sure, they're hiding the addiction, but they're also hiding this whole laundry list of other things uh, that maybe
Mm-hmm.
drivers in it, right?
It's the iceberg.
Right, and that's kind of shitty because as the lover, the person sitting someone down intervening, like what are you hitting when you even bring it up?
Yeah.
You don't even know.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's just to validate, not that you need validating, the the body keeps the score. Feelings buried alive never die. All of our issues are in our tissues, right? And it's all connected.
I'm 51 and
it's all connected. And so the other, Dick Schwartz, who was a founder of Parts Therapy, Internal Family Systems, he has asthma. So he says, medically, I have asthma. So I can walk into a place and if it's dusty, it will trigger my asthma medically. And he says, I also have a part of me that when it starts to feel a certain way, will push the asthma button, which is what you're talking about. The conditions are such that I'm feeling it in my body, everything's getting activated, and it's manifesting through shortness of breath. And so it's unique because the body and the brain are amazing, and it will always manifest in addiction, in behavior, in personalities, right? It's trauma. And so it's, as the loved one, can I just be curious, stay open, realize what my boundaries are and what my limitations are and what my perspective is, so that I can be a safe place for that person.
Well, I just, this thought occurred to me. Should we take situations and retranslate them? Like I have a friend that says they have constant chronic neck pain. We always think, oh, it's anatomical, right? Like, you have something wrong with your neck. But is it, we should just do the read. Is it stress?
That's a
hey,
beautiful question.
I can't move around. It equals, or, I have a sick pit in my stomach. Like, get out of your life, But I don't know. I think we need to start, the psychosomatic side of this is
somatic
probably
is
way bigger than
I've told you, right?
But
I hear voices. So I have a couple voices, and in the beginning, I was listening to their literal words, and their literal words then would affect my thoughts, feelings, and actions. And that was always problematic. So yes, so those of us in the Hearing Voices community, we often say there's a translation that needs to occur with the literal words or the literal voice. So the voice telling me Daniel wants to kill me is translated into I'm not feeling safe. And so when I learned that and I realized that put me down a different path of thoughts, feelings, and actions. And so now I'm like, okay, let me check in with why am I not
why
feeling
do I feel that way?
Yeah, exactly, right? So
but how much therapy does that take to get down that road, right? Like you have this poor person that has a trigger, and it could just be something as they went to a party, their friends are doing drugs, and then they're on the road, right? And then fast forward, they're hearing those voices and they're taking action on it, like kill that person because of X. And so then it becomes a crime thing when really you got to back the whole history back to, they had problems going when they walked through the door.
Yeah.
Yesterday
I had a gentleman from Hawaii reach out. Hey, I hear voices and I want to learn more about your group. And so I connected him with the facilitator, and he's like, I need a lot of help. And I said, well, first off, you're not alone. And I'm so proud of you, the courage it took to reach out, right? Like I had to suffer for decades because my ego, culturally, environmentally, and That's the piece.
I don't think the viewers would get the night and day of you. Jim Durbin was different than Jimmy Durbin.
I had a persona,
the bravado,
right? Yeah.
and
Oh my gosh.
blonde tips, and
Plastic and
tight
fake.
pants, and like it was the whole thing.
Oh,
Look at me,
Yeah.
sort of Gaston,
Yeah.
like,
Well, I had to present that because what was happening here,
Yeah.
it was, the shiny object. Look over here.
But I'm like a scrawny gay kid, right? That like looking up to professional people, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what the fuck did I do wrong? It kind of like we believe the story.
Right.
You had it all
Yeah.
together, right? When in fact
if it's too good to be true,
it probably is. I think the older we get, we're like, yeah, right. What's going on behind closed doors? Yeah. So for intervention situations,
Yes.
Just because of the reading I've done, like I've been the friend, confidant for a couple of them. Meaning, hey, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, first off, you have to talk to a professional if you're the intervening party.
Yeah.
Right. If they can get professional help as a part of the intervention, it's probably going to go a lot faster, and that faster can still be slow, right? Because otherwise, if you're doing it without some sort of professional, it becomes a family problem, or a friend
system problem for sure.
Like someone's highlighting something over here, and it's just gonna wallop you, right? And you're gonna defend back, right? And I have a scenario that's sort of in the middle of that. Like, family thinks that they can handle it, and the person's sort of back on the straight and narrow for a period of time, right? But I mean, you're kind of poster child. It was up and down, up and down, up and down, right? But it was a decade before you had an epiphany, like a really loud one, right? But
well, it always gets worse, never better, right? And so a person can float or stay stagnant for a period of time, but it doesn't matter how the pain or the suffering for that individual is manifesting itself. It's always going to get worse.
Now, do you think you went that long because you didn't have a big event? Meaning, like, got into a car and wrecked it, or
that's a great
OD'd, or because you were able to, your system was able to handle it.
Yeah.
Right?
So think of it. We all have a containment device, and we all stuff or avoid things in this containment device. And between like 35, 45, depending male, female, right? The containment device gets full. So those feelings buried alive never die. They just turn really, really toxic in the body. And then a couple things happen. We get older, and the containment device starts to erode. And that toxicity kind of seeps out of the containment device and then percolates to the surface of the earth and causes problems. And or, as you had just said, a life event happens where that containment device implodes or explodes, and it gets shattered everywhere. And that's where crisis happens. Like, I was somewhat able to manage whatever kind of popped up because it wasn't a major crisis.
I'm just picturing like
this
whole plug it.
Yeah, I was right.
Plug.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Or a life event happens, as you indicate, which then it's just all over the place. And then the person, like with your friend, got the flu. It was a crisis. It lost a lot of weight. Like it. Exacerbated.
Well, in this day and age, sometimes we don't even know that someone is an addicted party until, DUI, or
loss of a job,
or some erratic behavior,
something happens at the club,
because we're we have levelers now, right? You know, you can go to a doctor and be like, oh, I feel anxiety about XYZ, and bring, you know, take the thing that's going to bring you down, right? So people can feel or seem even keel when they're like all over the place, right? But like some addicted part, like it's not until they're in the hospital, and then doctors are now treating two different things because they'll find out what's happening, right? And then they can potentially get down
Yeah.
the healthier track, right? I think where it's harder is people like you that are keeping all the holes plugged for a decade or 2 decades or an entire lifetime, right? Because people can, you know, humans are pretty good
We're very
at,
adaptive.
you know, resilient, I guess, is like, you
Yeah.
know, you don't think that a drug addicted person is, you know, or alcohol addicted person is resilient. They probably
Absolutely
are very
are.
resilient.
Absolutely.
And you know, and then, you know, they end up getting nomenclature within a family, right? Oh, that's just uncle blah blah blah, you know.
So back to your point about the, you know, the interventionist, it's however many number of people are in that system, and then we'll just call that system a family, and it doesn't have to be direct family, but just friends, right? As an interventionist, you're always doing work with the family system first before you even get to the addict, because the addict or the individual that's hurting or suffering is always going to go test the system and find the weakest link. And it's only until everyone gets to their own boundaries and says, listen, and it's going to happen different for different friends or family, of like, you're so chaotic and I've got my own thing going on that I'm blocking you. I'm creating this boundary. And when you get to a place where you need help or you're ready, like, I'll be there, but I can't handle this. And those are going to be different levels for different people. But the individual that's hurting is always going to go to the person who they can,
weakest link, yeah,
the weakest link, right? And so that's where I'm saying, like, I just see it over and over again. They give, there's not a healthy boundary, and then they become bankrupt. And then,
wow, I'm having a little epiphany right now. So I don't know, pull me back from this. So if you feel that you need to intervene with someone, it's a whole entire family affair.
it's a system
or group
yes
affair.
yes
Then
yeah
that just creates a whole level of difficulty. What if not everyone's on board?
yeah then that's going to be information for you, right?
Yeah.
So think of it as a business. If I have a system, if I have
The whole board has to unanimously
if I see something that's happening over here in the system, I've got to talk to the other department heads or the other people involved in that system to say, hey, we've got this problem here. How do we want to handle it? And if someone says that's not a problem, that's also going to be more information of like, why do I want to even spend energy on this?
Well, is that why that fact of relapse rates are so high, 60% or what have you?
Absolutely.
Okay, because they were forced into it.
I wasn't ready.
You know, like what if your wife just literally just said, like, you have to go to rehab, right? Ultimatum.
They did.
Well, and you did go and relapsed.
Yes.
Right? Because it wasn't a full system. Well, you weren't even on board, right?
Ultimately, what they did an intervention, right? But it was, I went out for my final runner, and the mama bear came out in Shannon, and she said, I'm done. You know, she had reached her limit. She had finally drawn the line in the sand and said, I'm done. I'm done. And that's what propelled me, because she finally had a boundary that I couldn't break through, that I couldn't manipulate, that I couldn't work around or dig under or go over. She was done. She's like, that's it. And every other time I kind of found like, oh, you know, like the soft spot. And I created that event. So what it was is that my father was sending money every month, and I got the check in the mail and interceded and cashed it and went on a runner. And so now she's cleaning toilets and she's doing what she needs to do to keep the house afloat. And I just spent the mortgage and the bills. And she's like, right? But I did that because that was the way I was
brutal.
asking for help.
I only say it's brutal is because how many people. Now we don't have a lot of we don't have a lot of followers yet, but this is still going to be in the memory of it, right? Like there's a whole pain system behind the addicted person, right? You know, because if anyone's stealing, well, somebody's got to make that up, right? Or talk to, or manage in some sort of way, right? And then, I mean,
so back to your point, yes, it's, hey, I have a concern about Bobby. What are you guys seeing? What are you guys experiencing? What is it that we need to do as his support system, as his love network, to help Bobby?
And it goes and it doesn't just become a family matter. It's a system matter.
Yes.
I think this is very important for the friends to know that if you are literally a part of the system, then you're a department head.
Yep.
Right. I think we all run into that's a family issue, or the family's going to take the lead on it, and then I would step back.
Yeah.
Right. But what you're saying is no, it's a system issue. Right. I think when it's an involuntary intervention, it's kind of easier to manage, right? Because the therapy organizer, whoever that is, a social worker or what have you, they're involved with the full system.
Right.
Right. When you're doing this in sort of because I think a lot more of the volume is in this, like, there's not necessarily a safety issue per se. So it's just folks saying something's not right and you need to right. And so I would say, oh, it's a family issue, right? And you're saying no,
I would include you into that.
I mean, because I've had opinion, I'm like I've inserted my opinion in this. So that's a very interesting takeaway from this is that if you're giving an opinion, then you're a part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where, and maybe you are the friend and you're taking the calls and you're going late at night and you're there to pick them up. And if you have that mindset, but the parents or the spouse is the chink in the armor, so to speak, then you're giving and you're giving and giving, and it's just leaking out the side.
Or you're the chink.
Or you're the chink, right? Because you're like,
oh, hey, can I come over and spend the night and get away from X, Y, Z? Yeah. We always say yes, and we may be the propellant, I guess, or the fuel.
It's very complex. It's very layered, which is why addiction is so destructive and in the very fabric of our community and our society.
I'm going to ask a wild question.
Okay.
It's very hard to get help, though. So if I had a situation in my life where I needed this, and I don't right now, thankfully, but how do people get help? That's not like super expensive, right? So like what process would someone follow in order to sort of gain?
Yeah. So okay, that's a good question.
Because I don't think it's common knowledge that hey, they should call you.
Right.
Right. Like we think of therapies, like getting a hold of a therapist is actually very difficult.
Yes.
Right. Because we always lean on our insurance or the party's insurance, right? And that's just the whole situation, right? So would you say people just need to know that they're going to pay for it?
Well, I would,
or like what, I don't know, I'm being too brash right now, but the thing is, like what should people do, or how should people attack this?
So if you're the individual struggling, ask for help. And that safety net. So we talk about a community safety net, that safety net, anything that helps an individual attain or maintain some self maintenance is the community self. So me giving $1 to the guy, or me helping my friend sleep on my couch, like that's the community safety net. So therapeutically, if I could put my social work on, from the insurance's standpoint, the less restrictive is the first choice. So that's going to an AA meeting, an SA meeting, a CA meeting, like a 12-step meeting, right?
Just
like
step in.
Just step in. Like I need help, right? That's a plug and play. That's probably the best example of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's got a workbook. There's mentorship. Also, there's a community.
I would say probably harder.
It's
for the person
to
just
open
step
that door.
Yeah.
Like I got,
because it's group, right?
Right.
It's like, you're admitting to,
So, but it's out there and it's in community and it's online. Like if a person's really ready to kind of like get that, that's there.
Yeah.
And the same thing for the loved ones, right?
Okay.
Codependence, Al-Anon, like, hey, I'm struggling with this and it's pulling for me, like I need help. Like how can I keep myself afloat?
Okay. So,
but
just let's clarify.
Okay.
So if you're not the actual party in question, you can still go to these groups and be connected with some professionals.
Because they're absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Because in my mind, I think it's because I'm in the medical, so we get we need to find a doctor, right? I think we get into that habit of, there's all these other programs out there that are just as available, even for the people that are the sort of interveners.
Yes.
Okay. What if the person's not ready, and it's the
Yeah, then it's the question of what do I need to do as a support person to be prepared or prepare myself for when the loved one is ready to kind of step in. Because that's, again, we get bankrupt and we give and we give and we give, only to realize I don't have anything else to give. And then the person's like, okay, now I'm ready. And we're like, now I'm put myself in crisis. So, right, it's the airplane. Put your mask on first.
And then save the kid.
Right. That's
okay.
And so, but are you aware of that? Like, are you doing your own work? Do you have a community? Do you have a support network where you can ping that, to go inside, to self-assess, to be really honest with yourself? Like, are you on your own path of healing to be ready and to be aware? And if not, then there's probably certain signs. You're probably struggling. You're probably tired, or you're doing X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
So there's support groups there that are no cost. You can plug into a community, whether it's a faith-based or your own.
Yeah, I mean, when you said that, it's just, that makes sense. But I don't think a lot of people think of that right off the bat, right? So I think we'll obviously put that in notes as sort of pointers and what have you. So, well, we did an hour. I think Jimmy thought we were only going to do 30 minutes. Put two talkers in a room. Yeah. Thank you for the time.
I love you.
And sharing. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And we'll get a picture.
Yes, please.
Let's go to lunch. But thank you for listening. We'll put some notes in here. There's some facts that we'll also share as well. This topic can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So, apologize for the abrupt end, but it is a process that will be unique for whoever you are working with, or if you are in fact in need. But the first line is jump into one of these free programs that are available almost every single day at pretty much almost any hour. Yeah. If you're here locally in Las Vegas, that's definitely true. And start the next phase of your life. Right. Don't take the pills.
Call.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.